Alright guys, so today we're going to be talking about something important and very interesting, something that I don't think is explained all that well, or at least people don't really seem to understand exactly what's going on here. So in this video I'm going to try to do that my best, although it's kind of difficult until this really gets to the manga. Oh, speaking of that, there's going to be like savage spoilers in this video, guys. I mean, like, this is webcomic stuff, far into the webcomic. This is way past season 2. Way past what the manga is currently in. So if you don't want to know what's going to happen in the story, I strongly suggest you check out now. So, awaken Garou. In this video, I'm going to try my best to explain how Garou becomes this, what it is, and how strong it is. This name, Awaken Garou, comes from Black S calling him that, seemingly after he thought he had become a monster during the Monster Association War. He's also referred to as Monster Garou, or sometimes Final Form Garou. I like calling him Awaken Garou. I think that's pretty cool. And you've probably begrudgingly seen this sometimes if you're not really into spoilers. I mean, this is a hot topic because he, it represents the epitome of power and the second strongest villain, or, one of the strongest villains in the series for Saitama to fight. This has also happened for many years now. I think this all wrapped up in 2013 or 2014. So Awaken Garou has been around for a while now, and still all this time we don't really have a concrete explanation as to what's going on with him. So in order to get into that, I'm going to have to start from the beginning and explain how Garou has even the ability to become what he is in his awakened state. So becoming a monster is an inherent supernatural ability that is implied all humans possess in the world of One Punch Man. It's further explained by Dr. Genus as an abnormal cell reaction triggered by an explosion of negative emotions. These often stem from unsatisfied needs or the desire to change into someone else. And of course, there are many other factors and variables that go into becoming a monster, but these are the main ones that I want to focus on because they pertain the most to Garou. So, it was recently revealed in Season 2 that Garou as a child had a strong affinity for monsters and villains as opposed to heroes. So we know right off the bat that Garou has always liked the monsters, and he's always found that to be cool. And throughout the series, Garou is always talking about becoming a monster. He wants to be the strongest monster. That's like his shonen goal. So this right here could be planting the seed for Garou to slowly become a monster. We have the abnormal cell reaction triggered by the explosion of negative emotions. So maybe it's not necessarily an explosion for Garou right now, but the negative emotions are certainly there, and he also has the unsatisfied needs or the desire to change into someone else, that being a monster. So Garou has already been on the road to becoming a monster, slowly but surely. This is actually mentioned by Garou in chapter 92, that his transformation has been very slow, as opposed to some of the odd monsters we've seen in the series, like Crablante, for example. I'm sure his was almost instant after he had the quote-unquote explosion of negative emotions. So now that we've set that foundation, let's build further upon it, because there is a lot more going into this grand transformation for Garou than just simply the standard monster transformation formula that we just talked about. So Dr. Genus further explains just the power hierarchy here with heroes when he says that they have the power to oppose these beings, talking about monsters. And they were also born with the potential to become strong and eventually obtain their power through talent or hard work. In addition, there are possibly those who were born with their brilliance, like me, Dr. Genus, or who those possess with unique abilities. So this is also pertaining to Garou. Garou also has these born talents like a hero does. He is born a crazy martial arts genius, as it is explained many times throughout the series. He also just has the crazy inherent power and talent and just athleticism that the other heroes do. So now we have two pieces of this puzzle for Garou. He has the inherent monsterification that all beings seemingly have, but on top of that, he is a specimen, like truly a freak of nature akin to the heroes that we see, along with his crazy, unexplainable martial arts brilliance. So that makes him even more of a prime candidate to become a significantly powerful monster. So now let's add another piece to the puzzle that is awakened Garou. So Garou in chapter 92 goes on to say that in the course of all of her research, she finally discovered that by overcoming death, one could reach the next stage. And by repeating that process, the subject would demonstrate explosive growth. This is how Orochi was able to become as powerful as he currently is, because Garou put him through this process. So Garou has also experienced this, because in his encounter with Royal Ripper and Bug God, he was essentially left for dead. Like, he was hacked up and came as close to death as possible for this mechanism to work for him. So after Garou recovered from this, he had woken up significantly more powerful. Like, it was debatable how strong Garou was at this point in the series, high demon, low dragon, but after this, he is definitively labeled as a dragon. So that is quite the significant power boost coming from just one revival of death here. But on top of the power, he's also gaining abilities such as regeneration, because he's able to fully recover from the wounds he received from Royal Ripper. And not only that, his durability increases to insane levels, where he's able to withstand the heat blast of Overgrown Rover and even Orochi. Just those feats of power have already led Garou to believe that Garou has the greatest potential of anyone that she has ever seen, even more so than Orochi. I mean, she specifically says that he can be raised into the strongest monster of them all. And this is because of everything we've been talking about so far, along with his crazy inherent genius abilities, along with him recovering from death, and the inherent monsterification stuff. This is all working together to make Garou this crazy powerful being. So now let's add another component to this puzzle of awakened Garou, because there is more going into this than what we have already even established. So, after Garou encounters Orochi in the manga, it appears that he has been pushed close to death once more. So this encounter in the webcomic is just him against Garou, and he's put into the ground with her crazy gravity attack. But it seems like Orochi did way more damage to him in the manga, so it's very possible that after Garou wakes up from this, both encounters and both continuities, he receives another power-up. Maybe not as significant as the one against Royal Ripper, but it is still evident that he does gain power nonetheless, because after this he runs into Super Ally Darkshine, who we all know is one of the strongest S-Class heroes. He's able to put on a crazy good performance against him. I mean, Darkshine only hits him once, and other than that he completely dominates him. But this leads us to the other component of Garou's power-up. So while he is fighting Super Ally Darkshine, it is revealed through narration that only when fighting a stronger opponent who corners him, he can find his true strength and grow. So this is showing us the other component to Garou's crazy power. Throughout the whole series, Garou has slowly becoming more powerful just simply through fighting stronger opponents and overcoming them. So we probably saw this for the first time when Garou was fighting against Tank Top Master. He was getting dominated by Tank Top Master at the beginning of that fight, and suddenly a flip switches. Garou changes, he's suddenly stronger and is able to dominate Tank Top Master. This has been happening all along, so Garou has so many things working for him. I mean, if you were to just write down all of his abilities on paper, he would come out as pretty much a broken character, like a shonen protagonist who isn't a shonen protagonist. He's kind of like an anti-villain with all of the benefits of that stuff, but he's just, cool. So now that Garou has become even stronger than he was initially waking up from his encounter with Garou and Orochi, he has now become even stronger during his fight with Darkshine, because Darkshine was just able to push him to become as strong as he needed to be. But this brings us to one of the most interesting parts of the entire series. So after Darkshine launches his Super Ally Bazooka at Garou, Garou is able to catch it in his bare hands. And then there is a narration that says, Garou's limiter seems to be breaking. So this is in fact referring to the limiter, the very thing that Saitama removed in order to become as strong as he currently is. So this isn't just surpassing one's limits or going past a limit or something like that. You know, what we've seen previously in the series, like what Garou was referring to with Orochi, how he was able to overcome the limit and become as strong as he was. You know, it's implied that Darkshine did this. It's also implied that Boros does this with the meteoric burst. However, this is not the same as the limiter. This is the only instance in the series that this is referred to as being broken, other than when Genis is talking about it referring to Saitama. So this means throughout Garou's entire journey through this series, all of the incredibly powerful opponents that he has fought, all of the near encounters with death that he has had, all of the power-ups that he has received, this has all been putting him on the fast track to removing his limiter. This is kind of like a condensed version of what Saitama was doing for 3 years during his training. Saitama, we know, just went through his continuous training, never taking a day off, continuously fighting monsters, continuously coming close to death, and it eventually got to the point of where he broke his limiter. But Garou is doing the similar thing here, just in his own way. But of course, Garou has a leg up on Saitama because of his crazy inherent abilities that he was born with, as where Saitama is stated just to be an ordinary human. So after his encounter with Darkshine, the whole limiter and him breaking it or removing it is never mentioned again, unfortunately. However, he goes on to run into Golden S, and at this point in the story, Golden S is implied to be the strongest monster currently alive, like way stronger than the S-Class heroes, stronger than anyone else we have seen currently in this arc. I mean, it's stated by MIMS that he is a monster that they cannot defeat. Even if they all went full out, it's still going to be no easy task. So this is another strong opponent for Garou to fight against in order to become stronger, similar to how he did with Super Ally Darkshine. And that's exactly what happens. He goes on to fight Golden S right after his fight with Darkshine, and during this fight, they appear to be pushing each other, or at least it's implied that Golden S is pushing Garou the furthest he's ever been pushed. So, unfortunately, we're not privy to see this fight. We just get glimpses of the speed of it and the implications of the battle going on. But once the smoke clears, we see Garou in his awakened form for the first time. So what is exactly happening here? Well, it appeared the same thing that happened in his fight with Darkshine. Only when fighting a stronger opponent who corners him, he can find his true strength and grow. So it appears that this happened, like, to the nth degree against Golden S, and I suppose Garou removed his limiter here. It's not explained. Like I said, it's not stated that Garou removes his limiter, but we simply just kind of have to believe that he is doing this here. I mean, he's just full-blown becoming a different being. He's going into somewhat of a monsterification here and gaining crazy unfathomable levels of strength. So I guess that's what this could all be summed up as. Awakened Garou is what happens when Garou removes his limiter. So of course, this isn't typical to everyone. Like, if they remove their limiter, they're not going to become a monster, because obviously we saw with Saitama, he did not become a monster. He just lost his hair. So maybe just because of Garou's specific situation he's in, where he's not ready to let go of his humanity, you know, that's kind of been the recurring struggle with Garou's character throughout the series, but he's also wants to be a monster at the same time. So this internal conflict, along with the explosion of negative emotions and all of this other stuff that goes into that, mixed up with his power-ups, mixed up with him coming back from death, him becoming stronger on the fly, this all culminated together and formed what we see as Awakened Garou. So now that we found out how he became Awakened Garou, what exactly is he? So like I've been saying, he's not exactly a monster, but he's not a human either. He's kind of like his own unique being here. It's difficult to explain because some characters see him as a full-blown monster, but then there's others like Saitama who see him as wearing a costume. So like I said, he's somewhere in between here, but he certainly has undergone some kind of transformation. So what exactly is this shell or casing or this form? Well, it's described by Genos as being his blood, hair, textile fabrics, and skin tissues all being mixed together and deformed, creating this appearance. I mean, it's so different that he says not even a single trait of his face is left. So all of the stuff that has led up to this has formed this monster casing on Garou. I mean, we see this developing slowly throughout the series. I mean, it really begins once Garou gets into the Monster Association, but it further develops in his fights with Rover, Orochi, and then on top of that, it just gets to this point. So now let's talk about how crazy powerful Awakened Garou is, because once he transforms into this, he kind of becomes unfair, really. He's strong enough to one-shot S-Class heroes like Zombie Man, Atomic Samurai, Child Emperor, My Mask, and Pig God. He's strong enough to withstand the psychic bonding of Tatsumaki. He's strong enough to break the skin of Darkshine, and after 2 shots, put him down for good. And he becomes faster than Flashy Flash. Like, there's pretty much no weaknesses to Awakened Garou here. I mean, he even says pretty much that he has no weakness. He even develops his own fighting style, you know, like the Water Stream Rock Smashing Fist or the Whirlwind Iron Cutting Fist. Just on the fly, through this crazy surge of power he has, he creates the God Calamity Slayer Fist, which is perfect because it's a amalgamation of all of the styles that he has learned throughout of his life. Like, he just doesn't know the Water Stream Rock Smashing Fist and the Whirlwind Iron Cutting Fist. He knows, like, dozens of martial arts, and they're actually all listed in the webcomic when he recites them. So he just fuses all of these styles together and makes the God Calamity Slayer Fist, which is, I guess, the strongest martial arts we've ever seen in the series so far. And after using his abandonment breathing technique, he becomes further stronger, and in his fight against Saitama, he's able to dip, dodge, and evade Saitama's earnest strikes and counter him at will. I mean, at points, Saitama is giving genuine reactions of shock as to what Awakened Garou is capable of here. It can be argued that he gives Saitama his toughest fight in the series. Now, of course, we haven't seen the manga or the anime version of this yet, so it's difficult to say if it's more competitive or more of a struggle for Saitama than his fight against Boros, but so far it's definitely comparable. And speaking of Awakened Garou and Boros, that's the only other monster slash villain in this series that even comes close to Awakened Garou in terms of power. So there's one more aspect of Awakened Garou that I need to discuss. So at the end of his fight with Saitama, Garou begins to rapidly transform after being like severely beaten by Saitama, and essentially he comes to his wit's end. And he becomes more of a monster than he ever has before in the series. I mean, he like grows into like some kind of huge hulking creature. And it's not really explained exactly what is happening here, but we can go back to Garou just simply becoming stronger on the fly by fighting a stronger opponent, similar to what we saw with Darkshine and Golden S. But it appears that this has taken it to the next level, and not even he is really able to control what's happening here. Because Dr. Genus, while explaining the limit and all that stuff like we were talking about earlier, he goes on to say that too much power becomes unbearable and overwhelms its host, turning it into a mindless, rampaging monster. And this is pretty much what's happening with Garou here. Now that he has removed his limiter and he continues to become stronger, it seems to just become too much power for him. It gets to the point where he can't even really speak normal anymore. It's actually even pointed out by Saitama. But aside from all that, it does seem like he's even becoming stronger in these forms as he progressively gets bigger and more of a monster. I mean, of course, it seems that way because he's becoming bigger, but his punches seem to have more of an impact. Also, he's able to take a punch from Saitama and not even really move. Pretty impressive. He actually takes a serious headbutt from Saitama and it only blows off one of his arms. And then we see like how far his regeneration ability has come, because he like instantly regenerates his arm, you know, similar to how like Meteoric Burst Boros was. But after that, of course, he's defeated by Saitama, and we see the shell of his monsterification, or whatever you want to call it, breaking off of him. And he also goes on to say, no, it's leaving me, the God Calamity Slayer Fist. So whatever he's dubbing this power, it seems that it is left him. So this also isn't explained. I don't know why Garou is able to lose this power, how the shell is able to break off of him. It just appears that Garou is a unique case here, and that this has only really happened to him, or at least it is only shown that it's happened to him. So other than that, there's no real way to explain exactly what's going on here other than saying that Garou has somehow found the place between human and monster. So one last thing I want to touch on is the discrepancy of him and Saitama and the limiter. So some people think that, well, why isn't he as strong as Saitama if he removed his limiter? Well, they're not the same case. See, Saitama removed his limiter and then kept becoming stronger. Garou, however, just removed his limiter and was only able to become so strong. So that's why he is not as powerful as Saitama. Also, his disaster level. So some people want to just definitively say that he is disaster level God. I just don't think this is the case, guys. Yes, he refers to himself as disaster level God, but this is more of a callback to when we saw him at Sitch's End of the World underground meeting when he says, you know, Shibawa's awesome. I'm going to become that disaster level God threat. Yes, he wanted to, and he certainly believes that he is, and the arguments could be made, I suppose, but honestly, he's really not disaster level God in his awakened form. Definitely above Dragon, definitely on the same tier as Boros, but nothing has really quite shown that he is like God level, at least not in my opinion. So that's pretty much it for the video today, guys. Let me know what you think about all this in the comments. What do you think is going on with Awakened Garou? I'm sure you guys aren't really going to agree with me, or at least I hope some of you understand what I'm going for, and I hope that I've actually helped some of you guys understand more of this. But regardless, let me know what you think about this fascinating character, and if you liked the video, please give it a like. I also have a Patreon. It gives you access to a Discord server. We do Hangouts on there. Gives you access to a weekly Q&A video I do. And if you haven't already, please subscribe as well, and have a great day, everyone. I'll see you in the next one.